Hey everyone, today we're going to continue learning about perspectives of the American Revolution. Remember, yesterday we learned about patriots who wanted independence from England and loyalists who did not. Today we're going to learn about three new perspectives: women, African Americans, and Native Americans. Women did much to help the war effort. They worked hard both at home and near the battlefields. They raised money to buy supplies. Some women worked as nurses. They traveled around caring for soldiers. Some women went with their husbands to the army camps. They did the cooking, washing, and sewing. They brought the soldiers water. A few women even dressed up as men and joined the army. Remember, women were not allowed to be soldiers back then. Women who stayed home had more jobs than usual. They kept farms, plantations, and shops running. It was hard work when they also had families to raise. Some women gave their homes and money to the Patriot cause. Several women acted as spies or messengers for the Patriots. A spy collects information for one side by pretending to be loyal to the enemy. Spies discovered battle plans, such as where the British would stop next. They then warned the Patriots. Women also warned families when battles were about to happen. Not all women were patriots. Some did similar work to help the loyalists. Both slaves and free African Americans fought in the war. They fought on both sides. Most of the time, they did not get to choose which role they would play. Still, they bravely risked their lives each day. Most of the people in South Carolina at this time were African Americans, and most of the African Americans in South Carolina were slaves. Some slaves stayed loyal to their patriot owners. They helped them fight or avoid the British. Some were hired out to do labor or hard work for the army. Others were sent to serve in place of their owners. A few owners even promised their slaves freedom if they would do so. But on the whole, South Carolina did not offer their slaves freedom for serving. In fact, one-third of all militias in South Carolina were made up of African Americans. The British promised freedom to any slave who would fight for them. When the British army was nearby, many slaves ran away from their plantations. They saw their chance at freedom and took it. They had to be careful, though. In South Carolina, a slave caught joining the British would be put to death. The British also took slaves from plantations. They made them work as carpenters, blacksmiths, and nurses. Sometimes they armed them to fight against their owners. Only a small number of slaves were given the freedom they promised. Some slaves who fought with the British left for Canada, and others were stopped as they tried to leave the state. Some were sold as slaves in the West Indies. Free black men joined the armies on both sides, but many joined the Patriots. Some of them were drafted or called to serve, others by choice. About 5,000 black men served on the side of the Patriots. A few white men from South Carolina argued that having black troops would help the cause. Each time, South Carolina's government voted against it. Most free blacks had to serve in other roles. Slaves were hired out to build forts, roads, and bridges. It was their work that made Fort Moultrie stand strong against the British at the Battle of Sullivan's Island. Slaves and free blacks also served as guides, servants, cooks, and messengers. The American Revolution did not just affect the colonists and the British. The Native Americans were caught up in the war as well. The Cherokee worried that the colonists would continue to take their lands. Most Cherokees decided to fight with the British. They hoped the British would let them keep their land when the war was over. Cherokee warriors and British soldiers attacked settlements in the backcountry. The colonists gathered a big force to fight back. They destroyed Cherokee towns and made slaves of Cherokee warriors. To finally have peace, the Cherokee agreed to sign a treaty. They had to give up the last of their land in South Carolina. The Patriots convinced the Catawba to fight with them. The British tried to get the Catawba to switch sides, but the Catawba remained with the Patriots. Catawba men joined militias. Some helped search for loyalists and runaway slaves. When the British attacked Charlestown, the Patriots and Catawba fought hard. Still, they could not defeat the British. Catawba gave the people of Charlestown food and supplies. After the war, the Catawba had to struggle to keep their lands they had gotten in an earlier treaty. And now I'm going to tell you about a really cool Patriot woman named Rebecca Bruden Mott. When the British took Charlestown, soldiers moved into Rebecca Mott's house. After her husband died, she moved to her summer home at Fort Mott. British soldiers also took over that home. Rebecca and her daughters had to live in a farmhouse nearby. Francis Marion was in charge of making the British leave the Mott farm. He decided the easiest way was to burn the house down. Rebecca bravely offered him bows and arrows to burn down her own house. Marion's troops set fire to the arrows and shot them on the roof. They captured the British soldiers as they escaped from the burning home. After the Patriots put out the fire, Mott served dinner to the men and their British prisoners. Another awesome Patriot woman is Emily Geiger. She wanted to help. She got her chance when she agreed to deliver an important message to General Thomas Sumter. The journey would not be safe. She bravely took on a risky job. On the second day of her trip, Loyalist soldiers captured Emily. Thinking she was a spy, they searched her for messages. Luckily, she had hidden the note under her dress, and while locked in a room, Emily memorized the message. Then she tore up the paper into bits and swallowed them. Unable to prove she was the spy, the soldiers let her go. Emily kept traveling and delivered the message to General Sumter.